Hello everyone. Now, first of all, today I'll be featuring something a bit different. I'm going to be featuring the Zao, the tier 10. This is a bit of a different game, something you don't usually see in the Zao. This is a really odd game. That's why I figured it was a fun game to make a commentary of. They have 5 DDs, as you might notice, and 3 of them are tier 10 in the same division. So this is going to be quite a difficult game to begin with. First of all, before the action starts, I want to remind you guys that tomorrow on Friday I'm going to be hosting a big giveaway on my stream in honor of getting 30k Twitch followers. I'm going to be giving away a bunch of stuff to both my EU and NA viewers. The NA subscribers on Twitch will get to pick any premium they want from the store as a raffle win, and among my EU participants I'll be giving away a Loyang, a Tirpitz and an Alabama. The Alabama I think will be for subscribers only. Anyway, that's tomorrow for my stream. Big giveaway. Anyway, moving on to the game itself. Baltimore, I spot him. Instantly, of course, start shooting him. 4 people targeting me. This is important. I'm trying to angle as much as possible, but I have to be very careful that I don't ground. But I'm trying to keep angle as much as possible, because the Zao is actually very tanky and very strong as long as you remain angled. If you do give any sort of broadside though, well, not any sort, but if you do give flat broadside, you can get citadeled. And because you have a very low health pool for a tier 10 cruiser at 40.8k health, your health pool is very low for a tier 10. So citadels are especially punishing to you. The Zao does have something called, I like to call troll armor though. It gets away with giving a lot of broadside compared to all the other cruisers, and unless you're giving flat broadside, it's unlikely you will get citadeled. So I'm just trying to harass these guys as much as possible and help out my gearing buddy who's pushed into the cap. But we already know they have an Ognaboy in there, there's a Bismarck, and there's a Baltimore. So there's at least some heavy pressure already in there. You can of course see the great power of the AP. The Bismarck is giving a fair amount of broadside. If I was Hindenburg, Moskva, maybe even Henry, I would probably be shooting AP at that much broadside. In the Zao though, I prefer using HE, because not only does the HE deal such great alpha damage, but you have such a great fire chance. The Zao is pretty much the original fire starter in this game, and you can just greatly punish any sort of targets. My buddy Exustio lands some torps on him, and I finish him off with a fire, and we do get the first kill here. But they obviously have more people coming, because, well, if you look at the minimap, we can tell that they managed to cap B, and based on where they're moving, based on the information we have from our teammates at C, the enemy team is not moving to C. So that leaves only one possible option where they could be going, and that's towards us. And I think we're about to get rushed by their entire team here. So I'm gonna turn in here a bit and see if I can maybe help my gearing buddy here, because he's about to have a lot of garbage coming his way. The problem, of course, here is I'm trying to bring all my guns to bear. At the same time, I'm trying to avoid grounding or anything similar, because, well, you can see I'm constantly being targeted by a minimum of 2 people. 1 to 2 and sometimes more, because, well, you're a Zao, and if you're this close, people like to shoot at you. Especially battleships really hate Zaos because they can be a real pain in the ass. And as I mentioned, they were coming this way, and we finally get our first glimpse of all of them. All their DDs are coming, not just the 3-man tier 10 division, but also the Tashkent, and I'm assuming they're radaring and stuff. And my gearing buddy gets caught completely off guard by this. I guess he wasn't expecting it, and he gets taken out extremely quickly. Well, now he gets taken out with all the focus fire on him. So at this point, there's really not much I can do here. This cap is going to be... I can't hold this cap alone, because they're rushing pretty much their entire team to this capture point. And with my gearing buddy dead, I'm pretty much alone. The Yugomo is smoking up and bailing, and I'm going to see if I can just use his smoke to turn around. Gotta be a bit careful here though, of course, because of all the torpedoes coming in. But I do run Vigilance on the Zao. I recommend running Vigilance because I like defensive AA on this ship, because the Zao AA is certainly no joke. So not only do I switch to AP, since I know there's cruisers who are coming around the corners, but I also turn my ship around. I want to drop my torps, and I want to use this smoke to turn my ship around, because it gives me a few seconds of being undetected, and by the time they see me again, I should be quite fine. I switch back to HE since the DDs are rushing me, which is of course not very smart. I guess they don't know I'm in here, and that Gearing gets a rude awakening with a 9.4k HE volley on him. As I said, the HE is extremely potent. Edinburgh, trying to push around the corner, finds my torps. Zao torps are really strong. They do a lot of damage, they're very fast. They only have 8 km of range though, and the actual firing angles on the torps are quite terrible, which means you have to give a lot of broadside to use them. That's why in general when you brawl, you don't want to be brawling in the Zao, because those torps aren't really usable in brawls, because you pretty much have to give out full citadels in order to be able to use them. So in general, avoid trying to use torpedoes in a brawl. It's usually not worth it unless the target is focusing on someone else. Here we have an issue though, everyone's torping me. And I think I slowed down a bit too much. I should have kept a bit more speed. I think I could have dodged these torps entirely, but I do end up eating one because I was worried about if I would overturn. So I started turning a bit too early to play it safe, and I ended up eating one. However, I had my repair ready. I hadn't used it on anything, so ultimately it's not that big of a deal. I do eat one torp. It's a chunk of damage I lost that could have been avoided, but I get out of the situation alive. So once again, could have been worse. Could have been played better though. Needs to be pointed out that I could have perfectly well evaded that. But I am a bit worried when it comes to evading torps in this thing, because you got to remember that Zao actually has an 840 meter turning circle, and that's not very good. For example, the Des Moines has a 770 meter turning circle, so 840 meters is not a good turning circle at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure most tier 8 battleships maneuver better than the Zao does because of that very slow turning circle. Yugumo is being focused, so I of course instantly turn my guns to help him and force the Grozovoi to disengage so our Yugumo can get away alive. Because Grozovoi, well in general any DD in the open is prime target for the Zao. I mentioned the heavy hard-hitting HE with the great fire chance. Another strength is of course that the shells are very heavy on the ship, which means that you don't really lose any shell velocity shooting long ranges, and the fact that the shell velocity is so fast. So it's called Zao railguns for a reason. You are able to just hit pretty much anything at any range, and that's of course a massive strength for this ship. I could shoot the Kutuzov, but it looks like he's already being focused fired, so I'm trying to see if I could go for the Baltimore instead, get rid of one of their radars. The Kutuzov does go down, as mentioned. So many people were focus firing him, and I'm just going to be harassing the Baltimore as much as I can. I am constantly being targeted though, and I know there's all these DDs behind me, so I am taking a healthy angle to make sure I don't sail into any unexpected torps. I do have my fighter plane up at all times, of course. I prefer running the fighter plane over the spotter plane on the Zao, especially for situations like this. It gives me additional spotting and information of what's going on around me. Baltimore taking a huge chunk of damage. At this range he shouldn't really be shooting, because he's gonna struggle to even hit me at these ranges. So I prefer to, well, I will happily take this fight, but Baltimore doesn't have the shell velocity really to take these kind of fights. The only reason he hit me there was because I slowed down to see if I could maybe catch the Edinburgh off guard, but he did get behind the island. And well, this Baltimore is fleeing for his life. He's got a fire on him, and in general he's not really enjoying his time. Yugumo does smoke me up. I guess, well, I have used his smoke kind of accidentally for him, but in general, thank you very much for this smoke. I guess I helped him, he helped me. That's kind of how it works. The game is pretty damn close though, because the enemy still has 4 DDs left. Edinburgh pops up. I don't bother switching to AP because it would take too long. He's about to smoke up and disappear anyway, so I'm just trying to get some HE volleys off because, well, I already got a fire. I'm pretty sure he repaired it, so getting that second fire plus all the HE spam is gonna do a lot of damage to him. That's a chop by a radar. Well, smoke up in front of a radar is never a smart idea, and he finds out the hard way. Grozovoi is, the Ognevoi is also spotted. We don't really know where some of these deities are. There was a Grozovoi here, I think it was radar there, and there's a Shimo, I think, at B. There's still an Ognevoi missing somewhere at A. So this is getting a bit messy right now. I'm trying to get any damage in. I do actually manage to hit the Grossovoy. That was quite an insane shot, to be fair, because I only got a glimpse of him and then I shot in his general direction. But that is of course one of the great weaknesses that I often mention about the Grossovoy. It does have great DPM, it does have great health, but it's so damn large and it feels quite clumsy. So if you do catch a Grossovoy sailing around, especially in a Zao, it's quite easy to punish it, and well, you saw a great example there. The game is kind of slipping out of our hands though. They have not only do they have a ship more now, they have 4 DDs to our 1, and they've managed to cap both A and C, and they're capping B as well. I'm down to half health, I only have 1 heal left, and well, I need to start making a play here soon because we got 8 minutes 40 seconds left, so this game is getting pretty damn rough at this point. There are times like this where you kind of have to go in the Zao. That's something a lot of people struggle with, going in the Zao. They sit the whole game at the very back sniping and spamming HE, and they never really realize the time when it's go time, when you can no longer sit back and snipe, but you have to use this armor and this cruiser. You have to use it to have a big impact on the game, and they often don't recognize this situation. They just sit back and snipe, and they lose the game with pretty much a full HP Zao, and then they complain about how they couldn't have enough impact on the game, mostly because they didn't do enough work. I think I should have switched to torps there to get a better idea of what that guy was doing, but I could, based on how slow... Basically, I used the terrain around him to see how slow he was going. I used that to help me aim. You see the spotter plane, just how much information the spotter plane just gave me. It spotted the Baltimore, the DD, they spotted all the DDs and the Baltimore. So that's of course why I run that fighter plane. I call it spotter plane mostly because it gives me so much spotting information. But it's incredibly useful for especially information like that. Hindenburg pops up, and this is a problem. He is already so close. At long range, I don't fear a Hindenburg. This close, especially one that's already shooting AP, and he angles in as I switch to AP. So that's of course very unfortunate. I need to angle in here, because if I don't angle in, his AP is going to melt me. He has much faster reload than I do. Hindenburg gets below, especially if he's running AR and stuff, he can easily get below 8-second reload. I'm sitting with a 14-second. With AR, it's of course cut down, but still, I'm struggling with the reload. So I have to angle. Second of all, I cannot use all my guns. If I use all my guns here, well, then he's just gonna melt me with his AP. So I have to angle, and I can't rush him either, because if I rush him, he can torp me. His torp angles are much better than my torp angles, and in fact, if I try to turn and torp him, he will citadel me. A Grossovoy is shooting me. At least I assume it's a Grossovoy, so I'm shooting him right back. You notice I'm getting a few hits on him in the smoke, but in general, I have to angle against them both, and I have to reverse, because Hindenburg, if I give broadside, he will melt me. If I rush him, he will torp me or just melt me, and he does have more health than me, not to mention he has a Grossovoy helping him. So I'm reversing, trying to reverse away from him and trying to get as much damage done on the biggest threat I can see for my team, and that's another DD, of course. I thought with his broken engine he would struggle with maneuvering, but he did not. And St. Louis is taking this time to push, or St. Louis taking this time to push and distract a bit, which is actually really good, because this takes some of the Grossovoy focus, and now I'm going to be baiting him. You see the Hindenburg switch to HE, so I turn and I shoot all my guns, something I mentioned you shouldn't do, and as soon as I've shot my back guns, I turn away again, so by the time his AP lands, I'm actually angled enough to dodge it. So I kind of baited him into that I was giving broadside, but then I angled again, and it made him switch to AP. And AP, of course, with this angle, you can quite easily bounce. So I kind of tricked him into thinking that I was going desperate and I was going to go full broadside to shoot the HE, but I just turned enough to shoot my back guns, and then I turned away right away. And this is a pretty effective way of juking people, but it does have its risks. If he sees you about to turn to use all your guns, and he shoots AP at exact that moment, you will of course get deleted. Still though, I managed to survive, and I'm down to 2.6k health, and well, my superstructure is pretty damn blown up at this point. I have no more heals left, but I do have a fighter plane up again, and I do know there's a Grossovoy somewhere around here. A Grossovoy I have been shooting at quite a bit this game, so I know he's very low. So ideally, I actually want to push him. Yeah, he does spot me. Oh, Shimakaze does kill our Chapayev, so that's our radar lost. Now this is a bit risky, but I know I'm detected, so I'm gonna turn left. The idea here is to make the Grossoboy torp on my left side. I want to make the Grossoboy think I'm turning away to the left. He does get spotted once again by my fighter plane. You can see how much value that fighter plane is giving me this game. He panic turns away because he was being shot at, and that means he ends up grounding. I slow down and turn hard right, not just to dodge his shells, but any possible torps that I'm expecting to be coming this way, because once again I made it look like I was turning left, and his torpedoes go exactly where I intentionally juked. It made it look like I was turning left, so he would shoot his torps there, but then I actually turned right and into the cap instead. And slowing down, of course, made me dodge that last HE volley, which could have killed me. I only have 188 health left. So I managed to not just juke his remaining volley and torps, but that also demonstrated why I really love the fighter plane on the Zao, especially on maps with a lot of terrain like this one. That additional information it gives you is so very important, and it can help you significantly in situations like this. So now I'm going to be able to secure this cap. Now there's still a Shimakaze left, there's 3 minutes left, and I actually have 4 kills. And I'm figuring I really want to get a Kraken. I usually, whenever I start getting a lot of kills, I instantly start hungering for that Kraken achievement, because I enjoy getting it. It's a fun achievement to get. And of course I always want my daily Kraken flags. So the Shimakaze is somewhere down south, because he's torped from there, he's been last spotted there. The rune is chasing him, but he's got so little health left. So I don't know about how lucky he's going to be about this. But see, if I was the Shima, I would probably move towards C. And now I get RPF'd. See, this is important, because I can use the rune's position to triangulate exactly where the Shima is. If the Shima was down where he is right now, the rune would be RPF'd, but he's obviously moving towards C as I predicted. So I turn hard south, and I use his own RPF against him. See, based on his RPF, it will look like we are sailing all towards C, but I'm in fact closing the distance with him. But you gotta remember, I only have 188 health, so I have to kill him with the one volley I can get off before he shoots me. But I need to close the distance first, so that when he comes around the corner, he's gonna get spotted by me. And my prediction turns out true. I spot him as I come around the corner, he instantly shoots, but I calmly aim my guns and I manage to take him out at the same time as he kills me. And that of course gives me that Kraken that I wanted, and well, secures us the win as well. This was, I was still completing combat missions in this game. 20k XP, this was of course with the daily win bonus, but I do get my Confederate, my Kraken and my high caliber. A lot of damage rewards, so to say, even though I only did 142k damage, which really isn't a lot for a Zao game, but I did so much of the damage to DDs that when we look at the team score, we note that I almost got 3000 base XP, and that is of course because of how much damage I dealt to all these DDs. The game rewards you for percentage based damage, so doing 50% of a Shimakaze's health is just as rewarding as doing 50% of a Yamato's health, even though of course you need to shoot the Yamato significantly more to achieve the same thing. So if you fight a lot of DDs and you do a lot of damage, the rewards will be very considerable. Detailed report, well, potential damage 1.9 million, which is pretty nice. Damage received, I tanked 66,000 damage in a Zao. Considering the ship has a health pool of 40.8, that's of course quite considerable, especially since I ate a torpedo, which counts as pretty unhealable damage in general. I did make sure I ate it on my stern, but that's of course still a misplay that should be mentioned. Damage upon your spotting is only 8k, but to be fair, I did get a lot of spotting with fighter planes that wasn't really spotting that gave my team damage, but it gave me a lot of information, which was very valuable in helping me play out those last few minutes when I was down to 2000 health. And of course, damage caused pretty much only HE. I did fire only one AP volley this game, and that was on the Hindenburg, and he already angled. Don't get me wrong though, Zao AP is fantastic, but there are some games like this one where you just don't get a chance to really use it. Anyway, that was my ZAO commentary. Oh well, I can actually show you the credits and XP. This was with the daily win bonus when it was 200%. So you can actually notice with all the flags and stuff I was running, I actually earned 54,000 Elite Captain XP or Elite Commander XP this game. So that's pretty amusing as well. Anyway, that was my ZAO commentary. Let me show you my recommended build for this ship. Alright. As usual, let's start off with the modules. Not much to talk about since we can't change anything. Premium wise, I recommend running premium damage control and premium heal at least. You can of course click the small little arrow here to select between doubloon cost and credits. I tend to remind people of this thing every now and then because there's always some people who don't know about this little simple little change. So obviously these two premium consumables, and if you can afford it, premium defensive AA and premium fighter plane. Now there's a reason I don't run spotter plane, and that's because the ZAO will rarely if ever need the additional range that comes from spotter plane. So the only use spotter plane has for the ZAO would be shooting into smokes, but you already do that quite well. Not to mention, honestly, the additional spotting you get from the catapult fighter is so much more useful. I don't really use this for the AA, I use it for all the increased spotting it gives me and all the additional torpedo warnings it gives me. And finally, defensive AA. Hydro, not recommended on the ZAO, because if you have Hydro, you are quite easy to strike out by an enemy carrier. Even if carriers are rare, you shouldn't ever be reliant on Hydro on this ship. And if a carrier does strike you, 840 meter turning circle radius means that, well, you're not going to have a nice time trying to dodge those torpedoes at all. Upgrade wise, main guns and torpedo tube survivability. Better AA range. Your AA actually isn't that bad, so increasing the range to 6 km on the big aura and 4.2 on the mid, and I think 3.7 and 3.7 on the two short range auras. In general, you have pretty damn good range when you slot this, even without AFT. If you put AFT on top, you actually get pretty damn good range on the ZAO AA, and you shouldn't underestimate just how good this long range AA is, especially if you decide to spec manual AA on top. You actually tend to shred planes in the ZAO surprisingly effectively. People often underestimate it, which can catch carriers off guard quite heavily. But ultimately I only run the additional range from here, so 6 km range helps you defend not just yourself but any allies within the area if a carrier attempts to strike. Steering gears mod 1. Now once again, because of we run this defensive AA thing, running the defensive AA mod could be an okay idea, but personally I prefer the steering gears, especially since in the ZAO you tend to kite away a lot. This is pretty much what the enemy tends to see most often. They shoot at you as you sail away, so you get a lot of shells landing in this area constantly. And the problem with having your steering gears knocked out is that it forces a repair, and the ZAO that's forced to repair can be set on fire, and then you can get undetected and so forth. And in general, the ZAO doesn't suffer from the easily broken rudder as much as the rest of the IGN cruisers, but it still has the propensity to lose the rudder quite often. Faster rudder shift and concealment. Oh, and one little trick I might as well show. I tend to show this every now and then since there's always someone who doesn't know, but when I recommend premium consumables, I of course don't recommend you pay with doubloons, but you can click this small arrow next to the currency cost and you can select from doubloons, you can select credit cost, and you pay for these consumables with credits. There's always some people who tend to get caught off guard. Oh, you could do that? Because it's quite cleverly hidden in my opinion. Anyway, captain perks wise, first priority target of course, followed by adrenaline rush, followed by, well actually if you're leveling a new captain, if you're leveling a new IGN cruiser captain, you probably want to get demolition expert first, since you can't really get any use of superintendent yet, and then you get concealment expert. That's probably the base build. And then if you have to play something like the Mayoko, you want the turret traverse, so that's always fantastic. Expert marksman, and when you get higher tier, you want superintendent for the additional heal. When you get tier 9, you want the heal on the Ibuki. And you want vigilance, once again, because we run defensive AA, not hydro, so you want that additional torpedo warning. And the last perk I put into expert loader. And the reason for this is because IGN cruisers in general have very slow gun loading times. A 13.7 second reload is a very long time, and if you happen to have HE loaded and you see some cruiser turning about to give broadside, then being able to switch shell type in 7 seconds instead of having to wait the full 14 seconds is a pretty damn big deal, because it might mean being able to blast them with this incredibly powerful AP instead of, well, missing your opportunity entirely. So that is my recommended captain build. Worth noting, this captain build, if you happen to have an Atago, this captain build is excellent on the Atago as well. This is in fact the build I run on the Atago when I play it. In competitive, I would probably run Last Stand instead, but for randoms, this is a great Atago build that I really love using. And finally, of course, flags on the Zao. I'll highly recommend running the heal and the speed, maneuverability and healing, of course, and the 2 fire chance, because we do a lot of HE spamming, so upping the fire chance is quite valuable on this ship, because it doesn't use as much AP as some of the other cruisers. You do a lot of HE spamming in this thing, simply because the HE is so damn powerful. And the rest of the flags is entirely up to you, of course. Boost XP, credits, whatever. Anyway, that was my Zal commentary. As I said, I'll probably not be featuring too many of these various ships, as I'm going to be leveling the Royal Navy battleship line now, so be prepared for a lot of Royal Navy stuff coming up on my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll talk to you later.